So we're going to talk about one of the dullest topics in preparedness, food and water. But it is possibly, aside from your mindset, it is probably the most important topic out there. Food and water. You can live without water for 3 days or you'll die. You can live without food for 3 weeks or you'll die. Right? You have car insurance, home insurance, cat insurance, dog insurance, fish, whether it's a federal or state requirement, we have requirements to insure everything. But the single most important thing to keep you alive is the most neglected resource out there, because everyone assumes that the 18-wheelers will always be rolling and stocking the grocery store, pharmaceuticals, and fuel. Our nation is on what's called a just-in-time supply system. Everything's digital and computerized now. You buy it, you scan it, it feeds it back to a warehouse, they put it on a truck to replace what was bought. Those trucks stop rolling. Guess what? People start hoarding the grocery stores. They always blame it on people who are preppers or people who prepare. It's kind of a humorous joke because we already have what we need. We don't have to go amongst the crazies to buy these resources. Think back to the beginning of COVID, when 90% of our population was rushing to the grocery store to buy toilet paper when there was a disease that was invisible and deadly. And they were fighting over toilet paper. If you were prepared, you can do this. You step back and you separate yourself from the 90% of society that is unprepared. This is your self-sustainability insurance policy. Okay? However you want to do it, stocking groceries, canning, whatever is your method. We're going to talk about different ways, okay? But we, at my home, my boss and commander-in-chief sitting back there, I call her Miss Lucy. Her name is Marcia. We have been living out of our home store probably 80% since March of 2020 when COVID hit. We pull from our resources, and then if we find a good buy or sell price, we'll buy and stock back what we use. We are not paying the increased cost that the grocery chain is charging you today, right? So I was talking about preparedness and preparing for all the different things. COVID was one of them because A, we didn't have to go amongst the people, and two, with the increased cost in resources, we don't have to pay them the price, okay? All right. So again, I will mail these out to you. You can see the Facebook, YouTube stuff on there. So just some rules for the road. I talked about who I am in the first class. You can go back and watch the video from that class. I'm Butch. I attend the crossing. We live in Dandridge. My wife and I are both from West Virginia. Retired from the military 20 years in, and then another 20 years as a defense contractor in Washington, D.C. and Huntsville, Alabama, and so forth. That means nothing. All it did was prepare me for who I am and why I'm here today, okay? Nothing I say is personal, it's strictly professional. I've gotten a ton better. I've gotten a whole lot better than when I first started. I used to refer to people from the other political side with terms that would slip out, but That has changed because, you know what, they're our neighbor. And whether they're prepared or not, whether we like them or not, whether they're a Christian or not, they're still our neighbor. And if things tank, they're still your neighbor. So, good, bad, or indifferent, it's better to find out now who they are, figure out where you have common grounds, things you can talk about, and try to convince them to maybe prepare some. But that's just me. Remember to always strive to be a hard target, not a soft target. 1 is none, 2 is 1, and 3 is better in all you do. Always have a backup to the primary and a backup to the secondary. This morning we couldn't get the sound to work. Fortunately, I keep this with me just in case. Okay? The goal is always to be left of bank, right? You want to stay away from what is the potential downfall or threat. If you have interest in learning how to use a pressure canner, dehydrator, freeze dryer, and so forth, sign the list. If you want copies of the slides, sign the list. This is class 2 of 4 classes in the Preparedness series. Next month, I believe, is security, and I want to try to fit communications into that block. And April, this all builds to that, and it is a fire hose class. It is a ton of information for 90 minutes. But I've cut and chopped, and it's typically a 3-hour class that I'm gonna do in 90 minutes. But it's your 5-mile radius in building your community and how we go about what we look at, where we go get information for intelligence, if you will, information to help our risk assessment determine where there are threats. So that's in April. Class 5, May, it is not a class, it's a 3-hour exercise, okay? 3 hours. We need at least 30 people in order to do it. But I'm gonna break you into urban, suburban, and rural communities. And I have a whole scenario laid out for each type neighborhood with maps. And you're gonna figure out as groups, make decisions. You're gonna figure out your food plan, your water plan, your security plan, and you're gonna have to make decisions on what you're gonna do. And then while you're doing that, I'll be throwing in injections to that. I may kill your leader. You don't know what I'm gonna do, okay? And my sidekick who lives in Crossville, Festus, Don, is probably gonna come down and help me do that exercise with you because we need moving pieces. So 30 people, May. You're going to need the information from the 4 months to help you in that exercise, okay? And most important, relax and have fun. Everything that I'm going to talk to you about is based on my 2 books, which are over here. Hope for Survival, How Food, Water, Shelter, Security Could Save Your Life, and 2 is the mindset. Okay, we talked about the mindset last month. We're going to talk about food and water today. The book covers medicinal, it covers essential oils, plants, EMPs, intelligence, it covers a whole slew of things. April, the mindset, or 5-mile radius is not in these books. It is book 3 that should have been out a year ago. It's not out yet, but I have an outline for it. It's going to be over 400 pages long, but it's how to build your community. So here, I showed this last month. This is the building block. I've taken years of training. I've been all over the world, from Africa to parts of Russia, Eastern, Western Europe, the Orient. I've taken all that and I'm applying it to share with you lessons learned. So for Hope for Survival, the top umbrella, Everything's based on risk, managing risk and threat mitigation in plants, right? If you have one slice of bread and your spouse wants a sandwich for lunch tomorrow, the risk of you not going to the store and buying a loaf of bread, right? How are you going to mitigate it? You're going to go to the store and buy a loaf of bread, and now you have plenty of bread, right? That's how you mitigated the threat of having no bread. It's very simplistic, but that's kind of how it works, right? Under the threat umbrella, food, water, security, shelter, comms, medicinal, and other. And then the learning training for proficiency is you, the individual, your family, and your community. And that's what we work towards, okay? There's been hundreds, if not thousands of hours over the years put into this, talking with, working with other people and backgrounds to focus on the core of what you need, okay? So food preparedness. If you get hungry while I'm doing the food part, the crossing was kind enough. I think Lee brought them. Lee, did you bring those donuts? Yeah. There's donuts in here. All right. I want to start you out. I want you to listen. This is like 4 minutes. I want you to pull out the key points of what this lady is saying. This is about food. Come on.
Explain global food security.
The U.S. is historically, when I say that, sort of late 19th century, much of the 20th century, it's been you could say, granary to the world. I wouldn't say it's fed the world exactly, but the amazing capacity for food production, the kind of land clearing that happened, and then the creation of big farms with a lot of technology, a lot of research that went into high-yielding varieties, as they're called. The U.S. did produce a lot of food, especially wheat, and some other crops, and it came to play quite an important role in a lot of countries globally as a huge wheat supplier, and then more corn and soy. In today's world, a lot of what we grow here isn't food at all, I would say. It's feed, and then increasingly it's been biofuel stuff. So it's been actually a food system that's moved away into producing more and sort of agricultural commodities for industry, and less food that people might eat every day and recognize as food on their table. It's gone into animals that we wouldn't be the number of animals without that feed, but there were animals that were grazing before, but now we've changed their diets. So there's a U.S. role in international markets as a big supplier that has gradually been lessening as we grow other things instead. There's an important role, as a subcontinent, the U.S. is able to grow a huge amount of food for itself, but we actually are a net food importer. That means we spend more on food imports than we earn from the export. That's a new thing for the United States. And we've come to increasingly depend on food imports, especially for these high-value things, seafood, fruit and vegetables, things that demand a more involved food supply chain. There's more food safety hazards, they need more energy, keep them fresh. As we've changed our diets and started to eat more foods all the time, every day, less seasonally, we've seen a big increase in the value of the imports of the food that the U.S. eats. And the third way in which the U.S. government in particular plays a role is as a very large donor to the United Nations, as an important member of many UN bodies, as a very big donor through the USAID, its International Assistance Program. That means the U.S. is also influential in terms of shaping how other countries invest in their food systems, in their trade systems related to food as well. So the U.S. has been an important actor in that international conversation about what a good food security strategy might look like, because it's a big donor. It comes with resources to that conversation. The U.S.
Someone tell me what you just heard this lady say.
We don't produce edible food, we produce feed, and we import more food than we get.
Key. And what's wrong with the food that we're importing?
It's crap.
It's sprayed, it's toxic, right? So the government recommends that citizens store food, especially in the event of a disaster. FEMA recommends storing food in a cool, dry place and in airtight containers. Depending on the reason for the season, FEMA oftentimes will have 3-day supply, 7-day supply. There were a couple periods during COVID that they pushed it out to like 3 months. And sometimes the federal government, depending which administration, will tell you something different, okay? I tell you that because when we started working in our neighborhood as to try to talk to people and break barriers as to, hey, you might want to put some food back, we didn't have to wear tinfoil hats on our head. We printed out what the federal government recommended, and we used that as the opener to the conversation. Okay. If the government is saying everyone should have 3 days of food, and let's say in a perfect world, 90% of our nation had 3 days of food, would you want to have 3 days of food too? Because that means you're like right back at the COVID era. You're going to be out there in the stores battling with 90% of the population for those resources, right? We want to stay mentally and physically a step ahead, right? When they're looking this way, we want to be looking this way and further down the road as to what's next, okay? In 2024, Israel suggested to its people to stock at least 4 months of food and water as the nation prepared for war. Over the last, even with the new administration, over the last 6 months, how much have we been hearing through the media and out of our government in reference to the possibility of war? Whether it's in the Asian theater, whether it's in the European theater, or whether it's in the Middle East. Well, if they're fighting over there, why do I need to worry about it here? Go read history. Go read what happens historically in our country, or pretty much any country, when a nation goes to full-blown war or multiple theaters. Many of the resources in our country are pulled and used for the war, right? Then it's going to come down to community. The only way that people are going to survive is community. You're going to have to work together, grow together, feed together. This is why community is so critical. Think about all the current issues facing our nation: debt, civil, political strife, continued increase in food prices, disease and flu outbreaks in animals, and they're used for food sources. It seems like they're trying to they're trying to impact us mentally to always think of there's a pending war. If you hear something every day, after a while, it's like it goes to the back burner. And it's, okay, yeah, we know about that, okay? Increased layoffs and rising unemployment will increase with AI and the IoT, or Internet of Things, replacing human workers. The World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, just announced 3 weeks ago, maybe, at the World Economic Forum, by the year 2030, 40% of the global workforce will be unemployed. 40%. Do you know how many millions and millions and hundreds of millions of people this is? They're going to be replaced with robots. This is not a surprise. They have been telling us this for at least 10 to 15 years. All right? It's just no one was paying attention. Okay? This brings unemployment equals homelessness equals hungry citizens equals higher crime and higher likelihood of impacting more citizens. It's going to flow downhill. Okay? The question is, How many people, how many communities, and how many churches are paying attention to how this is flowing and the impact that it's going to have, right? If you have a product that you're putting out to feed short-term or long-term homelessness, unemployed with food, if 40% of those who are providing those resources to you to give out, if 40% of them are now in that line, you have less resources to give and more to receive, right? So one of the things, over a period of time, there are some organizations, large organizations out there who are privately working with community churches to build large food banks in secure places. So when times come, or like a Hurricane Helene event, they can tap into these resources that are already funded, and they can use them to feed those in need. Because many of the communities in Hurricane Helene, many of the communities could not get trucks in because of roads, trees down, power, and so forth. So it was weeks to get resources into them, had it not been for communities, people who had some resources feeding those without. All right? You're going to have less available health care to an already stressed medical system. Citizens will not be able to afford medical care. Higher unemployment means more citizens needing food support. Less income means fewer donating, and so forth. This is where in Class 4 in April, your community in the 5-mile radius comes to play. This is where we talk about gathering information to use as a threat matrix. You can see here the U.S. has sustained 403 weather and climate disasters since 1980, which overall damage costs exceeded $1 billion each one, totaling in this period nearly $3 trillion. Okay, this does not even. This is through 2022. This does not even include Hurricane Helene and beyond. So many people focus on what is pumped through the media and what's pumped through the internet and through TV. Many people are not paying attention to what is happening in the natural world with the earth, the sun, the increased temperatures. I'll tell you right now, I'm not a tree hugger at all, but it has my attention. It's harder and going to be harder to grow food in gardens because of the excessive heat, further erosion to the soil. So one of the things that we've been encouraging people to do over the last year is start educating yourself on how can you grow food inside. Tower gardens and things of that nature. Vegetables, you can grow them year-round. There's a lot of folks down in North Carolina that are part of Hope for Survival that have their garage and rooms full of tower gardens, growing food. Okay? Pay attention. Natural disasters are occurring closer and closer and closer together. The time span between them is shrinking. All right? This wars and everything else you need to focus on, but pay attention to what is happening in the natural realm. All right? There's a lot of guys, I've listened to 3 or 4 different guys who are independent of one another, and they are all in line saying the same thing. water is warmer, the oceans are warmer, right? The winds are shifting. The sun is spewing larger and more often, which could create a CME, a coronal mass ejection. What does that mean? It's basically the same as an EMP, electromagnetic pulse. If you have one, it goes off, it is going to put us back into the 1800s. It will fry, basically, depending where it goes off, it will fry, basically, most electronics, because they're modern day, and they operate off of some form of a chip. Food health, only, this stat right here blew me away. When you look at how many farms were available in America at the end of World War II, currently right now, we only have 2% of those farms remaining. 2%. Many large farms today spray the crops with poisons, creating toxic foods delivered to the local grocery store. I once had it when I was doing my undergrad in psychology years back. I had a professor who used to always tell us, and we took him serious, but it's kind of like, yeah, okay. But he would tell us, when you go in a grocery store, the only thing you should be eating is what's on the outer wall. That's fresh vegetables, fruits, dairy, and meat. Everything on the aisles is toxic. And what do we hear today, right? The U.S. government forces a high percentage of imported foods to be treated with chemicals in order to get them into the U.S. We've faced increased prices over the past 5 years. Transportation systems are struggling due to fewer trucks and drivers in the U.S., fuel costs, unavailable drivers and cargo containers, natural disasters impacting farmers to grow wheat, soy, corn, and raise cattle, poultry, and pork products. Just in the last 5 years, I think we had a derecho that went across the Midwest that wiped out hundreds of thousands of acres of corn. We had floods in the Midwest that wiped out wheat. We had massive fires in Texas that burned up thousands of heads of cattle. And then we had droughts in Texas that more cattle died. They were bringing in feed from all over the United States. We had cattle that died in California. We've had rumors of bird flu and all these diseases impacting our animals, so they're going in and they're killing thousands and hundreds of thousands. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending whose pants you wear, the young lady who was putting out all these government directions to slaughter all these animals, she was just removed from her job in the last week. I think her last name was Fang, I believe. So she's gone. Anyway, these are all impacts at your local community. When those things arrive by truck and they go on the shelf, if you aren't prepared or you don't have your own animals, you're going to pay these prices, right? And you don't know what you're eating. More threats to food products and water. Federal executive orders, laws, funding, congressional bills, and state laws where the government pays farmers subsidies to not grow crops to protect the environment and not overproduce food. Droughts from continued excessive heat, no rain, fires, floods, winter freezes, tornadoes, water shortages, declared diseases, and so forth. So levels of food preparedness. There's a lot of factors that you can go to the store and every time you go shop, you can spend $5 and buy extra. And over a period of time, you have a food stock, right? The question you have to ask yourself and decide is, why am I doing it? If you're doing it because you came to this class and I said you need to have more food, you're doing it for the wrong reason. I'm just here to show you and encourage you. You have to decide in your own mindset why it is important for you and your family to build an inventory. All right? Natural man-made technological hazards. That means Mother Nature, man causing a disturbance, whether it's some type of terrorist act, arco-terrorists, or destroying crops, setting fires, or technological hazards. Some may classify the recent increase in importance of AI as being a technological hazard. Financial position. Preparing is not cheap. Anyone that does it will tell you it's not cheap. You just got to do it smart, right? The ability to obtain food for short and long term, the ability to store and maintain food stock, available space to grow food, outdoor, indoor, tower, upright, raised bed, external threats and internal threats to your food inventory. You may live in Oregon and Washington State, and I live in East Tennessee, and we are looking at the same thing to potentially do and grow. It may be illegal to do it there, but you can do it here, right? So a lot of things you've got to look at: the seasons, the soil, the laws that will impact depending where you're at. Do you have the ability to store and maintain your food stock, available space to grow? Special diets and needs of family members. I know folks that have spent thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and they go and order a 6-month supply that comes in on pallets of number 10 cans of dehydrated or freeze-dried food, which is on the far end. Then when I go and they ask me to do a vulnerability assessment of their stuff, and it's like, have you ever eaten it? No, I haven't tried it. You might want to try it and see how your system handles it. Or once or twice a month, pull some and start introducing it to your body, right? Do you have anyone in your house that has a special needs diet? Can they eat any of this $10,000 worth of dehydrated stuff you bought? No. Well, now you need to go build a food inventory for that person's diet, right? Think and ask before you do. There's many people who have some level of preparedness knowledge. Ask questions. Okay? They will help you in most cases. Time allotted, prepare a food inventory, understanding what each food type offers your inventory. The earth is changing, impacting temperature, soil, seasons to grow food. Consider a backup plan again, such as learning how to grow some food inside. I conducted an assessment of a property a couple of years ago that they had forethought into the future, and in an underground massive bunker, they had an entire space with soil and everything they brought in that was climate controlled, that they can grow food for the number of people they're planning on who will live in this bunker. Big bucks. But they were thinking ahead that if for whatever reason we can't grow it out there, we can grow it down here, okay? And that was for both humans and animals. So this is, I'm sharing my plan with you, all right? Build your own. I'm just giving you a philosophy of how I approached it, okay? So stage one, it's your initial disaster event, cutting off your access to what is normal. Always remember, what is the threat to you? How long did you wait to begin preparing? How are you vulnerable to the threat? How did you mitigate the threat? You went to the store and got bread for your husband so he can have a sandwich, right? Is there a short and long-term fix for the threat? Short-term notice versus advanced notice to the threat or change in normality in your life. Just-in-time supply system I spoke about. Are the 18-wheelers still running? That is one of the first things that I look for in disasters in the United States. What's the status of the trucks? Can the trucks get into that community or into a warehouse near it to where they can put it on smaller trucks? When I was working down in Hurricane Helene in East Tennessee for 7 weeks on the ground, trucks couldn't get in. We were having to put resources on four-wheelers, horses, mules, to get the resources up into the hills to the people because the roads were out, there were trees down, mudslides, and so forth. Are the resources moving to that community? It's one of the first things I personally look for. Why would a person who's trying to be prepared and not be a part of the average populace prepare for 3 days like the other 90%? It's insane. Recommend your short-term food stock be at least 30 to 60, 90-day supply to reach at least 6 months. This can be a variation of food supplies. Twinkies, ding-dongs, and bonbons do not count as a food source. All right? Those are called comfort foods. Recommend either home stock if you are not mobile between work and home. If you do work, you should keep at least 3 days of food in a go bag or a bug out bag in your vehicle. I have one, my wife has one, everywhere we go. Okay. If something happens, we're redirected for whatever reason, we can't get home. I usually actually keep some in my bag, and I usually keep a 5-gallon bucket that I keep food sources in. So if there's someone else around that I can share with, if they're nice. You planning in advance to eat healthy and stock nutritional foods and vitamins could be the difference between life and death. If you spent $5,000 on pallets of number 10 cans, it will keep you alive, but over the period that you're living off of them, you're going to see your health start to deteriorate, right? So our food plan is a blend, which I'll cover, of multiple food sources to aid when we have to supplement with the freeze-dried or dehydrated food. Past studies by the federal government and other agencies state 90%, look in this room, take 90% of you away, 90% of our population will die in the first 12 months of an EMP, a pandemic, or a total collapse. 90%. So a lot of the mindset is, if I can sustain me and my family and my community, if we can step back and survive for a year, a little over a year, a lot of the problems, criminal type problems, are going to die off for numerous reasons, right? Inner city problems, crime, lack of pharmaceuticals, addiction, and starvation, right? I hear people tell me, oh, if it gets that bad, I just don't want to live. Why? It's a great it can be a great opportunity to do great things for those around you. Diseases and starvation are two of the major causes of death. Point being, you must eat nutritional foods throughout this emergency period. Don't become a statistic. Prepare. So how much food's needed? When you're planning for yourself or a family of multiple members, how do you know how much and what type of food you will need? A single person requires approximately 1,055 gallons of water per year. If you plant a garden, you must maintain a 2-year seed stock for emergency situations. I know folks that buy the emergency food buckets. Yep, right there's my saving grace. Have you ever grown anything other than mold? Right? What kind of soil do you have? What season of the year is it when the event happens and you have no food? What if you plant all of your seeds and they're duds? I tested, year before last, I tested some of my emergency seeds and none of them grew. Some friends in North Carolina, they were testing theirs, none of them grew. It's not saying they won't. I'm just saying the ones that we tested, 3 different brands, they did not grow. Now what are you going to do? You plant them in the ground, they grew the year before, and now you have a flood. Now you have a drought. What are you going to eat? So a household of 2 requires 188 rolls of toilet paper per year. Not important. Follow up with this topic on what happened in Venezuela when it collapsed. And probably the same in Argentina. Food, see next slide, which offers several links to food calculators offering types and quantities needed. Plan for roughly 2,000 calories per day for females and roughly 2,500 to 3,000 calories per day for males. Children will be less. Your activity level could dictate less or more. To build your food plan, consider using, and I have 2 links here. Here's what a food calculator, you can print it out. You can go in and fill in the numbers. Some of them are digital if you pay them a fee. But you're basically plugging in all the essentials times how many people for the duration that you're estimating, and it will tell you how much you should have. It will help you. Are you here for the Avon meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Alexis gives us off, please.
I'm just kidding. Come on in. Here's another example of a calculator. Here's a sample of nutritional requirements, the vitamins for age groups. So here's how when I sat down and was thinking about it years back, here's how I said, okay, I was trying to keep it as simple as possible. So short-term preparedness is your 30-day to 1-year plan. What do you and your family need to survive without external support? You are on your own. You cannot reach and get help outside of your community. Okay? The 30-day food supply can be any assortment of your choosing. Consider including some dehydrated meals or foods with high protein and calories. In the event you must go mobile away from your primary food stock. You should also consider the nature of the threats such as loss of power, fires, ice, and floods. This is where so many people get messed up. They'll spend 10 hours a day watching TV, and they can tell you what color tie President Trump wears 8 days a week, where he went, who he's talking to, who's coming to the White House, and they tell you that they're a prepper. Cause and effect. Cause and effect. What happens is the cause. How's it going to affect you? Right? If it's not going to affect my community, I note it. So if it comes up again, I'll follow it. But if it's not impacting to affect my wallet, my family, our health care, or cost, and so forth. It's a cause, I'm noting it. Move on. They waste too much time on things that will not better their life in the event of a disaster of any type. Will you lose the food in your freezer if the electricity remains out for 10 days? What is your plan? Our thoughts and plan was anything that applies to the freezer, we're going to try to can as much of it as we can. That way we don't have to have a freezer for it. And if we get backup power, if we don't have as much freezer demand, then that's what we can divert that solar power or energy to something else. And it's nice to come home if you don't have a lot of time and pull cooked beef, cooked chicken, whatever it may be, pull it off the shelf. It's already cooked. You just warm it up and boom, you got that. Do you have other options available for heating food if required? Propane, gas, fireplace, solar. That is something to always consider. Oh, that looks awesome. Oh, I can store it for 10 years. How are you going to cook it? Right? That's an important question to ask yourself, is how are you going to prepare that item? Can you protect the food supplies you have stocked during an event? The mid-level, so we have 1 month to a year. Mid-level is 1 to 3 years. This degree of preparedness is more intense, requires more time and funding to achieve the 36-month preparedness. Storage space becomes an issue. If your stock builds, you must consider maintaining your stock supplies at multiple locations in the event you are robbed, or if you suffer a disaster at your home. Hurricane Helene, great example. I know folks who were into preparedness. If they did not build a cache of supplies at a secondary location, not putting their eggs in the same basket, many of them, the flood, when the water came through, it washed it away. Okay? If it's 3 a.m. and your smoke detector goes off and there's a fire in your house and you're standing outside in the sleet, freezing cold, asking yourself, what are we going to do now? If you have a cache set up, secondary, with some extra clothes, something to keep you warm, especially if you have kids, some extra food, some cash, items that you need, that part's taken care of. Okay? But I personally talked face to face with so many people that they had their life, but they lost everything. All right? When you are in a 1 to 3 year stage of preparedness, you should consider the fact you may have to relocate from your main bug-in location. If so, can you physically move your supplies? Especially urban people, right? We're getting chased out of our home. Gangs have moved in and they're taking over a neighborhood. I'm going to need a semi to move all my stuff. Give it some thought as you're building it as to if this is a possibility. I can go ahead and start setting up a secondary location. All right. And again, nutritional value becomes critical at this juncture. Long term, this is 3 years and beyond. This stage of preparedness is normally not a good sign. Most likely some form of major disaster or devastation has taken place in the nation. This could be as vast as an EMP or a tragedy where your life has changed and you've lost everything. Threats do not always have to be from natural or man-made. It can be something as tragic as being in an accident that impacts you physically to where you can no longer do that job. And your whole life was based on that income, and now it's gone, right? You may have issues paying a mortgage, paying for automobiles, and all that. But at least if you have some food stock as an insurance policy. At least you know you can feed your family. Okay? Hopefully you will recover faster than 36 months if possible. Raising a garden and farm animals would be wise. I would even do it earlier than that. So what are your options? Canned food, 8 to 30 months. 8 to 30 months. If the can's not dented and it doesn't have rust on it, it's still edible in our household. Canned meats, 5 to 15 years. Dried foods in buckets, 20 to 25 years. Home canning, a variant of opinion on this, say up to 5 years. We have canned items that we can that are at probably the 10-year mark now. If the seal's still good, we eat it. If it's questionable, we'll invite over a neighbor that falls under the other category. And we'll feed them first. I'm just kidding. Dehydrated meals varies from 10 to 25 years. Freeze-dried, again, 10 to 25. Growing a garden, seasonal, terrain, skills. There are some states, I believe, out west that will dictate to you on how much garden you're allowed to have and how much you can grow. Hunting, game if available. It is best to try the food before they are needed to ensure you like the food and if your body tolerates it. Sodium is a big player in the long-term foods. Okay, that is a factor to consider if you take blood pressure medicine and some other illnesses. Learn to conduct your own tests on each type of food to determine if the product is edible at the time of need. If you question a food safety, invite a liberal friend over for dinner and feed them first.
They don't eat meat.
Then you would have to feed them home canned fruit. Food choices: purchase canned food with the latest expiration date. Date is the sell-by date. My understanding is there's a possible movement going on where they may remove these off of canned goods. Personally, we are cautious of store purchase tomato, dairy, and fruit products that are much past their expiration date. Consider identifying local stores offering case lot sales, best value for your dollar. I know folks, I'm not eating it, it came from the dollar store. You've never been hungry. Dehydrated single-pack foods offer great short-term and long-term options. Just add water as the needed ingredient. Offers a great option for mobility. Lighter, less expensive compared to MREs, non-dehydrated. Available online in many sports stores. I think they're running anywhere from $9 to $12 a meal now for some of the carriers. Canning is an option. Preparation and cooking time, it's time consuming in canning. Offers a wide variety of choices in vegetables, fruit, meat, and so forth. Extends the life of a garden. More nutritional than dehydrated store-bought canned foods. There's kind of a joke amongst our Hope for Survival family. When my wife goes out of town, I will often start the canner at like 6 a.m. and I'll can till midnight. I love to can. To me, putting a can jar on the shelf offers me more than putting $1 in the bank. I get a greater return on that investment for it. I cannot eat the greenback, but I have food that my family and I can eat. Dried food long-term storage offers many options and choices. Beans and rice, pasta, wheat, sugar, flour, if possible, consider alternate storage location. Offers many options and choices. Food dehydrator, freeze-dried, requires equipment and time. A freeze dryer machine, I don't know if any of you freeze dry. It is an expensive piece of equipment. Long-term availability, less weight and space when carried in your bug-out bag. Other food choices. I don't know if you're aware of this. The Latter-day Saints store over in Knoxville, right? You have to look at it's called the Bishop Storehouse. You have to look at their website because they have only a certain number of days and hours per week that they are open, right? But you can buy single can and cases of number 10 canned foods way cheaper than what you're going to pay in most stores. It's just they do not have the wide variety of choices for it. If I email you these slides, here's a whole list of websites where you can get all kind of information on the prepping calculator all the way down to, if you have any questions, you can ask. If you want to get into I'll show you over here, putting dry foods into Mylar bags and selling them for long term. The gentleman who I consider to be the expert, if you will, is Bill Sterrett, who he and Miss Jan own and run Carolina Ready Supply in Waynesville, North Carolina. They're good friends, but you can call them, and Bill will talk you through it on the phone. He is a great guy, and he's awesome. They both are on this topic. So, to show you real quick, so what I was talking about, these are number 10 cans, right? One clue I'll give you on these, like this one right here expires in 2052. I just grabbed this one, these are peas. I bought scrambled eggs at about $7.50 a can. And they're ranging they're ranging right now $35 to $42 a can. That was before this egg shortage deal. This was a couple years ago. Another thing I tell you on these, it says on here like 20 servings. I would count maybe 15. All right. These are easy storage and all that. These are home canned. Potatoes, green beans, pear sauce from our pear tree. Here's stew meat from 2014. Right? Would not hesitate to open it up and eat it. It's sealed. And this is straight from the farm. This is not store-bought beef. Okay. Canned foods. We're talking about canned store-bought. Vienna sausage, potted meat. I know a lot of people gag on it. I personally like it. This is canned. This is from 2016. We don't have a problem eating it. Or the wife will take several different the canned vegetables sometimes and put them in a jar and then freeze them. And then if she's out of town, I can open them and throw some meat in them. We talk about canned meats. This is from survivalcavefood.com. These are expensive, but you can buy beef, chicken, turkey. I think there's one more, but they have a long shelf life on them. All right, just heat it and serve it. When we talk about buying food buckets, all right, this is just a mini example. I only buy these, I'll tag them, and I'll wait till they reduce them. And then when they reduce them, I jump on them. This is a 48-hour food bucket with breakfast. These are about $80, I think, right now. And I got these at about 40 bucks. When we talk about storing dry goods, right? It's more time consuming, but it's cheaper. And that is like, when I first started out, I would like put all of my macaroni in here. And it's like, that's stupid, right? So I would put it in Mylar, but I would store just macaroni and this is spaghetti. Well, it's dumb. It's like, well, now I gotta go pull 8 of these buckets out to get each of those items, right? So, like this is a pack of lentils that was bagged in 2020, right? So you buy a 5-gallon food grade bucket, you order Mylar bags of different sizes, and you get oxidizers, right? So in one bucket, and I have an inventory on here, so I can look on my inventory to see what's in those buckets. It may be oatmeal, it may be macaroni, it may be white bean, kidney bean, brown bean, pasta, whatever it is. Like here's yellow cornmeal, right? So it's like a grab bag versus having all my goods of one type in one bucket. And the nice thing about these is once you seal them, you can just stack them, get them out of the way and stack them, right? So I can probably do 8 to 10 of these for the current price of one of these. And I'm getting a better quality food, right? MREs, super expensive. Veterans and retiree military, we run from these things. Probably have more than Mountain House. This is lasagna with meat sauce, just add water. This is beef stew from Food Life Balance, you just warm it. Chicken corn chowder, this is from a company called Aftershock Preparedness out of Kentucky. I've eaten quite a few of these. Their food's really good. This is macaroni and cheddar. This is from a place right up the road here. It's the Chef 5-minute meals. They're made with like an hour and a half from there, but it's a prepackaged meal. It doesn't have the long-term years that some of these others. I keep these in my backpack. These are SOS emergency food rations. Okay, and I think these here are cinnamon. In my backpack, I like to think of foods that does not require me, that are protein, nutritional, that I can eat on the go. I don't have to stop somewhere, build a fire, and cook it, heat water, and so forth. If I'm trying to make time and I'm on foot, I want to eat while I'm moving. All right. There's all different kinds. You can build a fire. This one here is a propane cooker. You just set your pot on the top. It's like a little grill. Here's a smaller one. I keep that one like it in my backpack. This device here, there's a thermostat on top, right? Lid comes off, and these are mirrors, and it's a solar tube down the center, right? You can boil water in it, so if you have water out of Douglas Lake that you need to clean, you can put it in here and boil it for the recommended time based on the altitude. Or you can put water and beef in here, you can put chicken in here, whatever you want, if you have sun, and you can cook it inside of here, all right? And there's all kind of books, examples down here. I would recommend, one of my favorite when I first started was this one right here, called The Prepper's Blueprint. First edition, I think they're on like the 4th edition now. But it's water preparedness. Water equals survival. A human can go more than a week without food, but only 3 days without water, dependent upon the situation and location, bugged in or bugged out, water sources available, availability of purification method. Water storage is dependent upon space and circumstances. Have you considered how far you may have to carry or transport water? Everyone, yeah, I'm going down to the stream, and I'm going to pull the water out and bring it back, and I'll clean it. Right? You got you, your spouse, and 5 kids. Right? How much does a gallon of water weigh? Right? And it's recommended you have 2 to 3 gallons of water per day, per person. You know how much weight that is? How are you going to get that much water from there to here? Have you given thought and built a water plan as to how you're going to do it? Especially if there's a threat out there. If you've got to carry protection in one arm, and you've only got one arm left to move that water, what is your plan? Right? You need to have a plan of how you're going to do it. Why? Because if something happens to you, and you've got all these plans in your head, how you're going to run this, how you're going to run that, how to get to safe, how to do maintenance on my solar equipment. If you don't have it in writing and something happens to you, your whole effort and plan just went out the window. You've got to document and build plans on how you're going to do these things. Your body weight is 75% water. By weight, water required for circulation and other bodily processes include respiration, converting food to energy. Dehydration causes lethargy, headaches, dizziness. Confusion, drink small amounts regularly to prevent dehydration. If you are mobile on foot and suffer a shortage of water, move during cool periods and rest during warm periods to slow dehydration. Layer your clothing, drink slow, and with sips to maximize your water intake. You should be drinking 3 to 4 quarts of water daily. Dark yellow or brown urine is a diagnostic indicator of dehydration. If water rations are insufficient, eat minimal food. Food consumption burns up your body's supply of vital fluid faster. So some short-term solutions on water. I talked to folks who just started getting into this, and they want to feel good, and I'm happy for them. They'll say, yep, we put two 24 packs of bottled water in our closet. Awesome. That just took care of you tomorrow. What about the next day? Right? Well water. Even though you have well water and it's safe and clean and all that, you need to have the ability to test that water. One of the things that happened that we learned during Hurricane Helene down in Poga Elk Mills is after the flood came through, there were folks with wells, right? And they were still using the water. And we asked them, did you test the water? They're like, no, the water's fine. About 4 days later, their water started turning brown, and they were getting ill. If the well was at this level, and the flood started up here, and came down, anything that was below that introduction point where the water came out of North Carolina into Tennessee, those wells had to be tested. The water wasn't good. Get you some water testing kits. All right. Water jugs, if you're not using them, you can flatten them and store them. Your hot water tank is a great immediate supply of water for you. Your swimming pool, bathtubs. You can buy what's called a water bladder, and you can drop it right down in your bathtub, right? And you can fill it full of water. You can go on YouTube, the first training class, I had an interview with a guy named Otis, who's a good friend of mine, and he was talking about when Helene hit, we and Otis and his wife were in Henderson, North Carolina, getting ready to attend a 3-day preparedness function is Saluda. And anyway, we jetted home. They were from near Atlanta. They got stuck in a hotel for 3 days, and you'll hear him talk about how he was going to hotel staff telling them, this is going to happen. You need to take these steps and tell everyone that's checked in. And one of the things was you need to tell everyone they need to fill their bathtubs full of water because it was flooded. There was 15 inches of rain on the ground, right? And shortly after, they lost water and they had already lost electricity. So he was trying to take things that we learned and tell these folks, this is going to come, this is going to come. You need to continue to do everything you can to keep the morale of your occupants high, because it will quickly crash when life starts going bad. And they couldn't get out because of all the roads that were blocked because of floods. Midterm, rain barrels, creek, stream, lake, pond, river, aqua tank 100, aqua tank 300. I have a couple of these. They're basically intended to go in the bed of a truck, right? You can basically put it in the bed of the truck, fill it full of water, and if your kids are playing in a softball or baseball tournament all weekend, you got water supplies there for them all day. I said, okay, but I can also roll it out on the ground when needed, fill it full of water in a cool place, and it will immediately give me 600 gallons of water, right? They store easily, they roll up, they weigh about 3 pounds maybe. Water storage, mobile. Canteens, 5-gallon tanks. I don't know if you've priced these in the last year or 2 or 3. Yeah. They are really expensive. Life straws, bottled water, again, Camelbacks. Water sources, there's numerous ways that you can get. I was looking yesterday at some of these, they're expensive, these components that you can buy, a company will come and install, and basically where it collects water out of the air, right, and processes and right into your house. And there's the imported mobile Camelback.
On the bottled water to store, what do you suggest? Spring water, purified water, distilled water? I was reading an article in these brands, a study made on these high-priced brands, and they are pretty low quality.
I would not buy store-bought water and store it for long-term storage for preparedness. If we're consuming it, cycling it, yeah. But to buy it and stock it, in the military, I watched too many people. We'd bring pallets and pallets of water in and cover it with black tarps, and the logic and mindset wasn't there. And the medic didn't catch on. The next thing you know, you got people coming down sick, and it's from that water, right? The water becomes toxic. So I personally would not store any of it long term. And if I had it, I would keep it the best I could, keep it cool. Water purification, there's different methods that you can use for purifying water, from boiling it. It depends where your water source is at. You want to try to get moving water versus water that's still. It's two things you can always kind of consider. Are there tracks to the water where animals are following to the water to drink? And look in the water, and do you see anything that's live? Is there anything moving in that water? Those are good signs. if you don't see anything live in it and you don't see animals' tracks that's going to that water as a source, I would probably try to find another source. You can boil it. There's all kind of strainers. You can use tinctures. You can use bleach. I'll email these out to you. Water temperatures above 212 degrees Fahrenheit is your baseline, will kill all pathogens within 30 minutes. Boiling only kills living contaminants like parasites, bacteria, and viruses. Chemical contaminants, example, heavy metals, toxins produced by rotting material, sewage, will not be affected. If possible, it's better to spend a little bit of time finding a clean water source, moving water, than trying to purify a dirty, stagnant water. I don't know if you've ever been around or with anyone that got ill from bad water. But one of my teammates, we were in the continent of Africa in Dakar, Senegal, and our money man, we had told him, don't eat the fruit and don't drink the water, right? If the fruit has a skin, it's gotta be washed with clean water. Anyway, he had some fruit. We were sitting at the dinner table, and in the hotel, I ate the same meal 3 meals a day for weeks because I ate it. I didn't get sick, and I trusted it. Anyway, we're sitting there, and next thing you know, this guy's eyes got like eggs, silver dollars. And he pushed away and he took off running for his room. And he was in there for about 3 or 4 days, living in the bathtub because it was coming out of everywhere. But it was from eating fruit off the economy, right? And you don't want that to happen. It's rough, especially if you don't have medical care around. Additional ways for purification, the aqua drops, the Berkey, water tablets. There's a piece of equipment called a tracker. This particular one here, excuse me, it was about $1,200. They use a lot of this on mission trips. That's who they're built for, is missionaries. But you can take this puppy right here and hook it to a battery, drop the hose in the water, and you can get, it's in the neighborhood of like 500 to 1,000 gallons per hour cleaned. And then they make a bigger one that's more expensive for missionaries. It's several $1,000s, but it does a lot more than this one. I know a few folks that bought this one, and it is a very durable and quality product. The Berkey, the silver Berkey, is $300+, right? And then when you go to buy the charcoal filters and all that, they're expensive. We've been using one for probably about 13 years, I think. This one right here is from a company called Filter of Hope, right? You buy your own bucket, they send you this bag, they send you the tool to put the hole in the bucket, right? Takes about 2 minutes. You fill it full of water, turn it on, the water comes out the hose, and this is your filter. $40 for this water filter, right? It's filtered. This is built for missionaries as well. So all the money you go and you buy these things, a portion of what you're giving the company Filter of Hope is actually buying stuff to send to the field for missionaries.
How many filters do you use per bucket? Only one? How many buckets you get?
How much water?
Yeah.
I think on this one, I want to say that this one was like 1,000+. I kind of get them confused because there's several different ones. there's several different filters. Even if all you got was 100, right? $40 for 100 times 5 gallons, right? Is a still compared to some of the more expensive systems. I mean, the more money you want to spend, you get bigger, nicer. This is a steal. This is what's called a life straw. Personally, I'm 63. I don't even know how old I am. That's what happens. This one here, you put in your mouth and have to stick your face down there in the water. That's not for me, all right? For a lot of reasons. One is I don't know what's in the water, and two, if the situation is where there's a threat, I don't want to turn my head and lower myself into a position to where I'm at that disadvantage, right? Here's another type filter. You can buy these emergency drinking water. The Coast Guard buys these. That's what turned me on to them. Anyway, this one these expired in 2019. I still drink them because they're sealed and they've been in a cool environment, right? So I keep a couple of them available for my backpack. You can buy them, they're cheap. These are the aqua drops that you can use. This is a grill. Okay, these are not cheap, but they're worth it. These are about $90, right? I can tell you, you can go on my YouTube channel a few months ago, and I drank water from Douglas Lake through one of these, in one of the coves, right? So you stick this down in the water, right? And there is a filter. I washed it out yesterday. Down in the bottom, and you take this and you press it down, and as you're pressing it down, just an inch or two at a time, the dirty water filters through the bottom, and you have clean water in the cavity here, right? I personally like these. It's quick, it's easy, it doesn't take a lot of time, and it's like eating Vienna sausages, potted meat, and Spam. If I'm on the go and I don't have time to boil water, build a fire to cook food, I can hook this on my bag and go with it. This is another example. This is a 1 gallon bag. Basically, you just lay the bag, or you can hold it, and you stick the filter and the pump in the water, and kind of like use a syringe, and it will pull the water. There's so many of these out there. Just be careful what you buy, what they do for you. Okay, well, again, if you want these mailed to you, put your name on the list. If you're interested in a cooking or canning class, put your name on the other list. And if you're interested in any of the books or any of that stuff, I'll con my wife into manning the table. Yes, Lucy, can you man the table? Please.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys. Hope you can come out next class and bring. It's not how many are in the class, it's how many people are prepared, because there's less people you got to worry about knocking on your door. Just tell them all you stock is Spam. That'll get rid of a lot of them. Thank you for checking out the Hope for Survival YouTube channel. If you are new to Hope for Survival, you can check out our books at our webpage. Book 1, which is Hope for Survival, Getting You Prepared for Disasters, and Book 2, Hope for Survival, The Mindset, are both available for order on the website. We also offer the Hope for Survival football stick, which is a memory stick set up as a digital filing cabinet with files already loaded on there for you to digitally copy items such as deeds, auto transcript for ownership, wills, living wills, loans, banking information, items that if your home burned down or you had some form of a disaster, you could have all your important papers already digitally filed on this stick. All you do is simply drag the digital file into the appropriate preset folder so that you'll have it in the event of a disaster. You have to flee your home in a hurry, or also if you're away from home and you need critical information that's personal. If you have your memory stick with you, you can put it in your computer and pull that information up wherever you may be. Again, you can find these items to order at our website, https www.hopeforsurvival.com, or you can email me at preparedness101@protonmail.com, and I will try to help you out. Again, thanks for checking out the Hope for Survival YouTube channel. Hope to see you again.